Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You're on the Don't Give Our podcast. My guest, she is a person who has been through a lot and made it through it. As you know, my theme is don't give up. And she is not giving and she is not and she is not giving and she is not giving on her life. So so I have my guest introduce herself to you first.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shadanika Williams. I'm known as the Glow Up Coach, and I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you, Travis, for having me.
Okay, and she has a program to help women who have gone through domestic violence, right?
Yes.
Or any issue in their lives to aid to support them in living better lives. And it's called the Glow Up Coaching, right?
The Glow Up Blueprint.
Can you tell the Glow Up group, the Glow Up Blueprint?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please tell us about? Can you please tell us? Can you tell us a little? Can you tell us about the program?
Sure. Well, first, I would like to start by, maybe giving you a little bit of background on me. Again, my name is Shadanika Williams. I'm known as the Glow Up Coach. I'm an author and a speaker as well. I actually have been helping and coaching females who are survivors of domestic violence for over 13 years because I'm actually a survivor myself. And although I have like all these, accomplishments and accolades and things like that, that was not always my story. And to give you a little bit of background about how I got here, I'd like to share a little bit of that with you first, if I may. Um, I was actually a battered wife at the age of 13. And from that day up until I was 15 years old, I was beaten and abused. And the defining moment for me, or which I would have to say the moment that I got away, I was 15 years old and we were in the middle of an argument, and he was asking me some questions about a phone call that I had with a classmate, and he thought that she was trying to hook me up with someone else. And I kept saying no, she wasn't. And he would keep asking me, and after each time that he asked me the question and I would say no, he didn't believe me, and so he was throwing water in my face. And each time I would say no, the water would get hotter and hotter and hotter until finally, the fourth time he was walking towards me with water, I saw steam coming from the cup. And I had to make a decision from that moment. And in that moment, all I could hear in my head was, what am I going to do? And the next thing that popped in my head then was run. And I ran out of the house with nothing but the clothes on my back, and I never looked back. And so reflecting on that made me realize that every defining moment that we go through in life normally starts with a question. And so for the women who are survivors of abuse, the first question is usually, what am I going to do now? And so I decided to create a personal development program to help women answer that question. What am I going to do now? And in the Glow Up Blueprint, I take them through 6 steps. Number one is ask. You need to go to the source. I am a faith-based entrepreneur. I believe wholeheartedly in my Heavenly Father. And so I had to go to him because for me at 15, being a wife at 13 and getting away at 15, I think it's safe to say that there are some significant developmental steps that I missed. There are some things that I wasn't able to actually grow into because I was so young. I had to immediately jump into adulthood. So that caused me not to really know who I was. So the first step is to ask. The second step is to seek. I believe that you must seek out what you don't know. We are all, I believe, a work in progress and should always be constantly learning. And when you don't know, then you can't do better. So when you know better, you do better. So you should seek out what it is that you don't know. Seek out the people that you need. Seek out the knowledge and the wisdom that you need. The third step is to knock. You have to absolutely take action on the strategy that you provide, the strategy that you have created for yourself. You have to absolutely take action and execute. And I like to say, don't give God any rest. Like, constantly always pray. And the fourth step is to, you must learn how to encourage yourself, because at 15, going through those things, I had no idea that there were shelters that I could go to or people that I could actually reach out to. So I had to learn to actually encourage myself. I had to learn how to encourage myself. And whatever the fifth step is, the fourth step is to refinement. You have to go through a refinement period, which means you have to cut away toxic and unhealthy relationships, toxic and unhealthy habits. You have to learn how to cut those things away. And for the last step is improvement. We must constantly be working on our self improvement. I'm a firm believer in personal development. That's why I created this program. And that is, it's really important that you always learn to cultivate yourself. And really, the definition of cultivate is to encourage, refine, and improve. And so I believe that that's very important for others. And if you would like to hear any more of the story, of course, that's why I'm here on the podcast. But I'm basically just wanted to encourage you, because sometimes when we go through things like that, we get stuck in survival mode. And you get stuck in survival mode so much that you forget that you're actually living. And the definition of survive means to come alive through. So the question I want to ask, anybody who's suffering or has gone through abuse or is coming out of abuse, what are you going to come alive through? Like, are you going to make the decision to come alive through this? Like, you made it, you survived, you got out, you're free from it. So now you have to make the choice to participate in your own healing. What happened to you is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility.
Yes, and what I learned in life is that our experiences they shape who we are.
Yes.
I say this: how can a drug addict be delivered if no one's gone through that experience?
Right.
Like me. I was I'm classified disabled, and I was able to support people to actually get over that stigma that the world puts on us. So I think sometimes our experiences, they're not for us, they're for
Mm-hmm.
others that we
Mm-hmm.
go through.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It
That
didn't happen to you, it happened for you. And we go through those tests to give the testimony. And I definitely believe that, because at the end of the day, it may seem like it's about you when you're going through it, but when you come out of it, okay, now what are you going to do with that? Like, I believe, like, I had a pastor that always used to say, you can keep the story, but give God the glory. And the way that we give God the glory is by sharing our testimony with others and letting them know, yes, this happened to you, but you don't have to be stuck there. You don't have to stay there, and you don't have to let that define you.
yeah, and by you having the strength and the power to leave that situation, that gave you the knowledge and the power to support others.
Yes.
And I am so glad that you were doing this, because it's not just people who going through bad relationships. Some people lose jobs, some people live, some people lose their wives, some people lose everything, and they're stuck at that point of loss. They can't move to the point of gain.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
So, so what actually gave you the strength and the power to leave that situation?
God, most definitely, because I didn't have a support system. I didn't have family support. I wasn't allowed to have any friends except for the people that were his friends. So I didn't really have a strong support system. So the only thing I can say is God. A lot of prayer and God. On that particular day that I ran, I had I just had enough. I'd had enough. And I mean, I think that was evident, because I didn't care about what I left behind. I didn't care about if he was chasing me, if he was coming after me. I just know I was running and I was getting away. I had no idea where I was gonna go. I had an idea because by the grace of God, I actually had enough time to stop on my way out the door to call my aunt who lived. I was living in Kansas City, Missouri at this time, and I had an aunt that lived in North Kansas City. And by the grace of God, I had enough time to stop and use the phone to call her to tell her that I was going to be running down the street and could she please come and get me. So from that, it was just running. I just had to run. I had to go, and I had just had enough. And I was determined that he was not going to kill me. I was not going this was not going to kill me.
Yes, and you had to listen to God's voice too, because that was God talking to you.
Mhm.
A lot of times we have people talking to us. We're in a situation, but it's like we can't hear it because that situation is so loud in our head and ears that it's drowning out the sounds of hope, of joy, of peace. So my question is, which voice are we listening to? Are we listening to that voice that's telling us we can't get out, or the voice that says you can, or the voice that says you can get out of the situation, you can win?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because in my lifetime, the doctors told me that I wasn't gonna walk, but I'm
Mhm.
walking today. They said I wasn't. They wasn't that they took a test on my brain, and the test said that I was not intelligent. Well, I was the IT person. Well, I was the IT. Well, I was the IT person at work. So I believe that for 17 years of my life.
Mm.
It was not until I realized the power and the anointing that God put inside me that I really started to overcome my life.
Mhm.
So the question is, which voice are we listening to?
Right. And for a lot of people that's really difficult, because for instance, in my case, if all you're ever hearing is the negative, then after a while you start to believe that. All I ever heard was I wasn't smart enough to get away from him. Nobody else was ever going to love me. Nobody else was ever going to take care of me the way that he took care of me. Nobody else was ever going to want me. When you hear those things on a daily basis, time after time after time, eventually you start to believe it. And even for most women, when they get out of these situations, it takes a lot of unlearning, to even get past that part. You can get away, but you can still suffer from the effects of the abuse, by listening to those voices and listening to those things that, you know, he was saying to you.
Yes, I call that the residue
Yeah.
of doubt, depression. Because even though you love the situation, like you said, it can still be in you.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a house that has got mold or burnt. A team must come in to remove that
Mm-hmm.
mold, or the house must be torn down totally and rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, are we willing to be rebuilt?
Mm.
Because sometimes we enjoy that negative stuff that's in our lives
Mm-hmm.
because it feels good, because it's comfortable.
Yes.
We must leave our comfort zone in order to get the success that we want in our lives. That success. I'm not talking about money, houses, cars,
Right.
a big house, a big house. I'm talking about peace in your
Mm-hmm.
life. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about I'm talking about knowing who you are, no matter what no one says.
Mm-hmm.
We must leave our comfort zone.
Yes.
You got to.
Yes. I think it's somebody said everything that we want is on the other side of our comfort zone. And a lot of times, like you said, people get comfortable being in victim mode, and it's a really tough cycle to get out of, because I mean, let's be honest, when you are in victim mode, you get attention, you get sympathy, you get people, coming around and giving comfort and things like that. And that's why encouragement is one of the steps in my program, is because you have to learn how to do those things for yourself, because we are born whole already, you know and you have to learn how to be able to do those things for yourself. You have to learn how to be able to encourage and motivate and inspire yourself. You can't be waiting on other people to do it for you. And stepping out of your comfort zone, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, there's growth in that. And that's how you go from surviving to thriving. There's growth in everything that we do. And I'm a firm believer in, when you stop growing, that's when you die. Like, it's just the way it is, just like with plants, when they stop, they die, and we all have to learn how to get to that point where we can water ourselves.
Yeah, and when I was living where I lived at, I took care of plants, okay?
Mm.
And I realized that when a dead leaf was on that plant, it sucked the life out of that plant.
Yes.
I
Yes.
had to pluck the dead leaves off and put them in the trash can for that plant to grow. Just
Absolutely.
like you said, the negative people and negative things in our lives, they can suck us dry.
Yes.
They're like emotional vampires in our
Yes.
lives. It
Yes.
may
Most.
be our family, it may be somebody, it may be it may be the person that we love the most.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're sucking the life out of us, we have to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
We got
Yeah.
to improve on our lives so that we can live our best life.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Definitely. And that's why one of the steps is refinement. And I mean, refinement just simply means to cut away. Like, you have to, and like you said, it could be family, friends, your partner or whoever. Like, you have to, in order to grow, everybody can't go, and that was one of the things that I had to learn also. And being so young and going through that was one of the things that I had to learn, because I always tell people I'm a reformed people pleaser. And I was one of those people that, I just wanted everybody to be my friend. I didn't want anybody to be upset with me. So sometimes we stay in situations longer than we should because of that, and it ends up being detrimental to us. I would not get involved in conflict and things like that. But now I realize that by trying to avoid conflict with others, I create a massive conflict within myself, and that is very detrimental. Like, that is one of the big issues that I had to overcome, was being afraid to tell people no, or being afraid to say no, period. But now I've gotten to a point in my life where my nose are very good now. My nose are, I call them healthy nose. Like, I
Yes.
take very healthy nose. Like, I don't give any explanations. I don't do any negotiating. If it's no, it's just no. That's it.
Because you know what? Our life is business. Our life is a business. It's our health business. And
Yes.
as a business grows, when it grows, there are some people who can't handle the growth.
Right.
So what what they do is they leave them behind.
Mm-hmm.
They continue to grow. It's not
Yes.
saying they don't love them. It's not saying they don't like them. But it's to what's best for the business. It's
Mm-hmm.
what's best for the business, so it can improve. And sometimes that thing or that person that left behind, they may feel kind of hurt, damaged.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot let our emotional ties to that thing or person keep us
Yeah.
from growing. No, we can.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And it's hard. It really is a hard, pill to swallow sometimes when you have to let go, especially if it's family, someone that you're super close to, or a business idea, that you were totally, totally committed to and you threw everything into it. And then sometimes you get to that point where you realize maybe this isn't the thing. And that's why I'm a firm believer in going to God first, and actually taking out that time to pray and ask, what is it that he wants me to do? Because a lot of times we go off of our own, leaning onto our own understanding, and we go off on our own little tangents and don't even realize that this is not even the thing that, he put for us to do. This is not even our assignment. And, I'm a firm believer in valuing your time. I tell people all the time, like, you can waste my money, but you will not waste my time, because I can make more money, but I can't give back more time. So I'm a firm believer in that, like taking out the time to actually pray and ask our creator, what is it? What is it that you want me to do? What are we going to collaborate on today? I like to say that a lot. Like, what are we going to collaborate on today? And take the time to listen, because a lot of times we
Yeah.
do that and we don't take the time to actually sit and meditate and listen to get the answer. Like, you think you say a quick prayer and then boom, you gone out the door to go run off and do whatever it is you want to do anyway. You didn't even wait for the answer.
Yes. And in business, they take a risk analysis.
Mm-hmm.
They look at what they're doing, what's working, and what's not working, and what's
Mm-hmm.
not working, they stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, like with this pandemic.
Mm.
Pandemic, business, they had to move to the digital
Mm-hmm.
because there was no one because no one because no one come in stores. And
Mm-hmm.
those businesses those businesses that didn't embrace the digital, they're they are closing now.
Mm-hmm.
They're being shut down. So what I say, what I try to do, I try to take a risk analysis in my life and say, Travis, what's working, what's not working in your life. And if it's not working, I cut it out. Even though it, even though it may work in the past,
Mm-hmm.
even though it may be my main thing to get one going. But if I
Mm-hmm.
keep on doing that thing, I'm gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean die physically. I
Mm-hmm.
mean I become reclusive. Um, um, I begin to doubt myself. I begin to call myself all kind of names.
Mm.
I will begin to just talk down myself, think I'm nothing.
That
But
negative
that
self-talk.
go, yeah. But if I let that thing go and embrace the positive in my life, I will be a much better person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That negative self-talk,
Yeah. So
man, it's a big thing. Because and people don't realize, our biggest enemy is that thing right between our ears, and we have to learn how to navigate. We have to learn how to, turn it off, when it's getting to be too bad, and that's a really, really big thing, especially, coming from abuse and trauma. When you keep hearing negative things, if negativity is all you've been a part of, it's going to take a really huge mindset shift to get away from that. And it's a very difficult thing. And that's why that's the first thing that I always tend to tackle with the women that I work with is the mindset. Because if you're coming from a scarcity mindset or a mindset of lack, or what they call a fixed mindset, it's going to be very difficult for you to move forward and progress in success and positivity.
yeah, it's like the football game between the Bengals and the Chiefs. Now Joe Burrow, he believed that he could win
Mm-hmm.
because he had to the LSU. And when I say, but what I'm saying is he focused on his victories. He didn't focus on that loss that
Mm-hmm.
he had gotten beat by the Chiefs the first time.
Mm-hmm.
He did what he learned from experiences. We must learn from the experiences in our lives. I
Yes.
call it life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Life lessons. Just like in school, we don't pass a test. We're gonna take that. We're gonna take that class over again. If we don't pass the test in our lives, we're gonna repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in our lives. So we
Mm-hmm.
must learn from life lessons that come our way.
Yes.
The key is
Yes.
um to access that's the key. That's the key is to striving to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. You call them life lessons. I call them OTGs. I call them opportunities to grow. Because, and this is one of the things that I taught my kids growing up was, if you don't try, then that's the only time you fail. And, failures to me are opportunities to grow. Like you said with the test taking, what was one of the things that whenever you did take a test in class, and the teacher would always hand it back out to you. Okay, now let's go back over the things that we missed. You have to do that evaluation. You have to go back through in life. Okay, what were the things that didn't work? What were the things that didn't work out? Okay, so we learned from that. It's all a part of learning and growing. The name of my program is the Glow Up, and the Glow stands for growing and learning our worth. And knowing your worth is also a big thing when going from surviving to thriving, because when you're in survival mode, you're not really cognizant of your self-worth. You're not really thinking about the fact that you are worthy of being in a happy, healthy relationship, the fact that you're worth real, healthy, happy love. So I call them opportunities to grow. Those failures are just opportunities to grow.
Yeah, because you know what? At one time, I thought I was the ugliest person on the face of earth. I thought there was nowhere in heaven or hell that I would get married. I've been engaged 3 times and that didn't work out. But I got married last year, 20
Congrats.
September. I found someone who loved me for me, who accepted me for who I was.
Mhm.
But that wouldn't have worked if I wouldn't have saw the worth in myself. Because my wife cannot make me feel worthy. Only
Mhm.
I can make myself feel worthy.
Right.
So the question is, how do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves as worthless? Or do we see ourselves as being worthy of love, being worthy of the things that come our way? Because good things come our way, and we feel unworthy worthy of them, and we may not accept them.
Mm-hmm.
I say the door opportunity is always knocking at, always coming to us. Question:
Mm-hmm.
Do we see it? Do we see it?
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. We have to pay attention. Have to definitely pay attention, because nobody can make, like you said, nobody can make you feel worthy or feel whole but you. And you have to be committed to that self-work. Very committed to the self-work.
Yes. So, and tell me this: how do you deal with a person who um who you always bring something positive to them, and they always want somebody, and they always respond in a negative way? How do you deal with a person like that?
Oh, that's funny. I was having a conversation with somebody about this the other day. Like, I have a real issue with people that have a problem for every solution I gave them. And that's when I have to make a decision. If I am going to, okay, Shadanika, are you going to keep spinning your wheels, or are you just going to dust off your feet and keep it moving? Sometimes we have to just dust off our feet and keep it moving. The only thing I can do is give you the knowledge and the wisdom that I have, especially when you ask me for it. I can give you the knowledge and the wisdom that I have, and then it's on you. If you make the decision to take it or not, take it and run with it, or take it or leave it. And that was a really big issue for me when I first started coaching, because I would be so invested in my clients that it's like, if they wouldn't get something or if they didn't take my advice, I would be so upset, and it would mess me up for like the remainder of my day. So I had to take a step back and take a breath and just be like, you know what? You did what you were supposed to do. It starts with the conversation with yourself. I did what I was supposed to do. I answered the question to the best of my ability how I was supposed to answer it. And that's it. I can't be too invested. I'm not gonna fight you for your healing. I'm not gonna do that, because especially if you came to me, like, I'm not. You have to participate. You have to make a decision if you're gonna keep participating in the things that bring you pain, or are you gonna participate in the things that bring you healing. That's a decision that the other person has to make when they come to me. But I'm not going to stop being who I am and who God created me to be, just to appease you and to sit with you in your suffering. Like, I won't participate in that. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, it does. Because sometimes we spend a lot of time trying to save somebody who don't want to be saved.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like trying to save somebody who is in the water, just I'm not trying to save somebody who's in the water don't want to save.
Drowning.
If you're trying to save, they'll drown you.
Yes.
Drown you.
Yes.
They will drown you.
Yes. And that's
So
why I had to stop. I
a
just had to
lot of
stop because it
times,
was.
yeah, and sometimes as parents, as brothers, as cousins, as best friends, a lot of times our lives are so toxic, so messed up, because we're trying to save people
Mm-hmm.
who do not want to be saved.
Mm-hmm.
That's why our lives are so toxic.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
Yeah.
And it's time for us to realize that, and say I love you, but I'm not gonna, but I'm not gonna keep this cycle going.
Right.
Well, it's almost to the point on call ID. When I see a number, when I see a number, I don't pick up.
Right.
I know that they're gonna just
Drain you. It just
bring
drains
me
you.
down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, whenever you fly,
Yeah.
the flight attendant comes up and they always tell you, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you try to help anybody else. And that's the main, one of the main points that I try to drive home too is keep your cup full. Keep your cup full and let everybody else get from the overflow, because my cup is going to stay full. Like, I have to take care of me. I have to make sure that my mental health is in the right healthy space that it's supposed to be in, because what I do with coaching and helping other women is it's not for me, it's for them. And I have to make sure that my cup is full so that I can serve in my greatest capacity, in the way that I'm supposed to, in the way that God intended for me to. So I can't do that if I have other people around me draining the life out of me at the same time.
Yes. Yes, that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can say this. I strive because I see the worth in myself now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, I was told that I was gonna be nothing in my lifetime. I was in class with people who were disabled. I was not being challenged with the work I was given.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother, she fought to get. So my mother got me out of the environment because that environment was killing me.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, our environment affects us.
Mm-hmm.
What
Very much so.
assimilation assimilation brings on. What was it? Assimilation brings on. I'm gonna see what the saying is, but what I'm trying to say, who we hang around affects how we
Yeah.
act. Because who we hang around, that's who we act like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I tell my kids all the time. You got to check your
we
squad. Got to check your squad.
yeah, yeah. So any last words to our viewing audience?
Oh gosh. The main thing I would want to make sure that I get across is you have to check. I tell a lot of my clients, check yourself. You have to check your mindset. Especially when you're coming out of trauma and you're trying to work your way out of trauma, make sure you do the necessary mindset work that you have to do. Because as I stated earlier, what happened to you is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. Most definitely.
Yes, yes, and also your podcast is going to the bottom,
Yes.
so I give you a few minutes to talk about that too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The Glow Up Blueprint is my podcast. It's fairly new. It's a fairly new podcast. And mainly, I just share a lot of my own personal testimony, about how I came out of abuse and going from surviving to thriving. If you want to hear the whole story, I have an episode on there called "The Number One Question I Get Asked." And that's when I take my listeners through the actual me getting married at 13 and how it was able to happen and how I got away and all of those things. And I was actually able to share a portion of my story in a book called Womb Sisters Chronicles, Volume 3, which is also available on Amazon. And I've also released what I call the Glow Up Blueprint Planner, which is also available on Amazon. I actually have one right here in front of me, the Glow Up. It was just released for 2022, and it's also available on Amazon. So, yes, and I'm going to be dropping more episodes of the podcast. I'm actually working on my own full book right now as well.
Yes. I've written two books. One's called Don't Give Up. One's called God's Gold Mine. So yeah, so Don't Give Up is about my life and how I didn't give up on my life. And God's Gold Mine is about how testing trials make us stronger. Then I meant tear us down. So what I say to you is keep writing, keep on encouraging, and keep up good work.
Thank you
Now
so
I
much.
got some. I come on. Now I
Thank you
got
so
some
much.
sponsors. The mission of Innovation is to support and encourage the participation of people who are blind, visually impaired into a spiritual community where each individual is encouraged to utilize all their God-granted gifts and talents as they journey to a place of wholeness of body, mind, and spirit. And their email address is ivawakening@gmail.com. Their phone number is 678-718-7063. And this one is SimTech. We provide titles for cars, houses, and motorcycles in any state. Lisa Parks, Director, MS Group Search, Social Content, Local, www.mscongroup.com. The phone numbers are 678-687-9542 or 470-238-9152. My next one is Jennifer. Is Jennifer Gargaman, Epicure Leader. We have good, healthy, nutritious food. The website is Jennifer Gargamel at epicure.com. Well, I would like to thank you so much for sharing with me on this podcast. It's my prayer that you will grow and improve as God allows you to. And I thank you so much
Thank you for
for
having me. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I love your platform. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And everything's going to be amazing. Keep growing and glowing. Thank you so much.
yes. Don't give up on your dreams, hopes, and visions. Keep striving, keep pushing. You can make it. Have a great day. Later.